I'm Sonia Azad. Welcome to The Shift, a place to inspire growth, resilience, and wisdom, real connection, healthy conversation as we navigate life's changes and challenges together. Because, as I like to say, we are all each other's teachers.
Thanks to our friends at the Vineyard at Florence for making this podcast possible. Hair and makeup generously provided by Glam House Collective.
Hi there, I'm Sonia Azad. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are at Dallas Irby, and I am with Colt Power, the CEO of Power Biofarms. Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, we have a very exciting topic to hit today, and that is CBD, in a series that is all about alternative healing. And this is a very, I would say, important topic and a very popular topic for people right now, because a lot of people are looking for ways to feel better, right? But not necessarily with traditional medication. So that's what we're here to talk about today, and the power of CBD. I want to ask you first, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great. Okay, so we're great. We're ready to go. Colt, tell me first of all, what is CBD? I'm sure you get this question all the time.
Sure. So CBD is an acronym kind of short for cannabidiol, which is one of the naturally occurring phytocannabinoids within the cannabis plant. So that was a lot, and I'll kind of break that back down.
Yeah.
But it is a naturally occurring compound that works, like I said, naturally produced in the photosynthesis process of the cannabis plant. It actually is produced as a compound called CBDA naturally, and then after the plant is harvested and it dries and heat is applied to it, it converts into CBD. And that distinction is important because they have a little bit of different effects when ingested. But CBD is the one that's most popular and really been popularized by the 2018 Farm Bill and the CBD industry. Your body has the CB1 and CB2 receptors. The endocannabinoid system. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting and unique in that, like, basically the compounds that this plant naturally produces has a home in your body where it automatically locks in and has these effects. CB1 receptors are what's in your brain, and it most commonly is known for interacting with THC, which is the active compound in marijuana, and that's another thing I'm sure we'll get into talking about later. But it's also produced by the cannabis plant in what's defined as hemp. There's a lot of definitions to kind of wade through here, and that's kind of why it's such an important discussion, so that consumers can help better understand all of the moving parts. But hemp, which is what was made legal by the 2018 Farm Bill, is anything that has THC content of less than 0.3%.
Okay.
Everything is cannabis, whether it's marijuana or hemp. It's just, does it fall under the legal classification of marijuana or hemp based on that THC content?
So as long as you're under that amount, then you're good. You're safe. You're legal.
Correct. Then it's hemp, and then it falls more into the CBD product lane.
I'm sure you get a lot of people who go, well, CBD, that's illegal. How can you do this?
Correct. Yeah. And that's kind of why, in even explaining what it is, I feel like I had to go into the side talk of how we're able to do this and how it's legal. And it's all about that THC concentration of below 0.3% by weight.
Why do people seek this out? So if I'm talking to the people right now who've never tried it, they don't even really know what it is, and they're just open to hearing more about it. Who benefits from taking CBD?
Yes. So that second receptor, the CB2 receptor, is what is kind of in the rest of your body. And that's where, when the CBD interacts with it, it helps reduce inflammation and basically swelling that can cause pain or more acute, swelling in a joint, and then also anxiety. So those are the two most common kind of use cases that we find people looking for, and things that are tangent to that, where maybe they have issues sleeping, or they are having a harder time exercising, or just doing activities that they enjoy to do. The anti-inflammatory properties of CBD really, it gives the benefits that most people are looking for.
That's, so you just answered something that kind of came up for me. I remember when I first started really digging into CBD and like learning about it, going to talks about it, I was like, it feels confusing because people are like, well, how can it help with this, all these things? How does that work, right? But what you're talking about is something very specific.
Right. Because of the way it interlocks with that CB2 receptor and helps reduce inflammation kind of throughout. There's things that we're doing to our bodies all the time, whether it's not getting enough sleep or things that we eat or I guess other medications we may be taking, just general lifestyle decisions or conditions we may have. That anti-inflammatory property of CBD is really where, and it seems to have the biggest effect for people kind of across the board. And it can be confusing or almost sound too good to be true in that it can help with so many different types of things. But that really is what's at the root of it. I think just the modern individual has a lot of things going on in their life that creates inflammation. And that's where CBD really can help.
So my understanding is that this has kind of a cumulative effect. So it's not like you take it one time and you're like, that was so great, my joints don't hurt anymore and I'm sleeping perfectly and I'm done. You sort of have to take a little bit every day if you're ingesting it, let's say through a dropper or something like that.
Right. And so I'll use myself as an example and kind of how I consume. I have some lingering sports injuries in my knee in particular, and my neck's not great either, but the knee is the real problem. And if without CBD, if I exercise or play with my kids a little too rough, it'll swell up and make it hard for me to walk the next day. And if I were to take CBD, if I'm feeling uncomfortable on a one-off basis, like as I would like an Advil or a Tylenol, it may have a little bit of help, but for the most part, it's taking a small dose or kind of your correct dose as an individual, which is another thing we can get into more. Morning and evening, potentially 3 times a day, and just having it in your system kind of all the time really helps stave off some of those symptoms. But it is more of that supplement than more of like an acute treatment, I'd say.
Let's talk about dosage, because it is very different for different people based on why they're taking it.
Definitely. Some of it is weight related, but I think more so it's just different people's bodies. Some of it's your metabolism, the way your endocannabinoid system works. For some people, a dose of 15 or 20 milligrams a couple times a day would be sufficient. For myself, I take a couple 100 milligrams a day, and that's what I found to be kind of my happy dose. But it is something where you start low and go slow and kind of titrate up to what gives you the relief you need without consuming more, and not because like a lot of medications where you start to have adverse side effects if you're taking too much. It more is just diminishing returns, and it's not there are costs. So
I was going to ask, is there a point where you've taken too much and now I think what people may think is just like you're just kind of melting into the chair or whatever, right? Like you can't actually function.
Right, and that's because CBD does help people that have issues with sleep. Some people will think that it'll make them sleepy, where that it really doesn't. CBD at doses that are too high can cause basically stomach distress. You start to have just a little bit of GI distress, and that usually is the only side effect. But for example, children that have epilepsy, they're dosed with thousands of milligrams a day through the pharmaceutical version of CBD, and that's something that's safe. So like the adverse effect issue is not it. Now, a lot of times the CBD products are full spectrum, meaning that they contain some of the naturally occurring THC from the plant, and that's where the people will often get the side effects of feeling maybe a little bit hazy or a little bit more tired, or having some of the effects more similar to what you'd expect from like a marijuana, where it actually is coming from the trace amounts of those chemicals or of those compounds in the plant. It's not from the CBD itself.
But what you just described too is also legal.
Correct. Yes.
I think I just want to keep re-emphasizing.
Yes.
So the fact that this is used for children, the fact that this is used for people in, older age or later life, I mean, would you call it safe? And I guess I should say, you're not a doctor. You don't prescribe this stuff.
That's right.
Like,
in the context with the children that I was speaking of, that is, there's a pharmaceutical product called Epidiolex that is prescribed and given to kids under a clinical setting. And so that's not necessarily advocating, that you would. for children, always under the use, or I guess, guidance of a physician.
Sure,
like you're
obviously,
saying.
yeah.
But the safety profile of CBD is excellent. I mean, there's been now a great deal of studies that have not shown any adverse effects on the liver or really any system in the body. It's got a safer risk profile than many of the drugs we commonly consume, like I mentioned earlier, like a Tylenol or an ibuprofen. I'd say cite the studies, but I read as many of them as I can, and that's all that I've been able to find.
Well, and what made me interested to want to talk to you about this is because I have reported on the opioid epidemic for so long, and it is only getting worse. I mean, the rate at which teenagers are dying with these experimental opioid, usage, and the frequency of it, and then, older people as well. I think people are looking for something to rid themselves at some level of anxiety, physical pain, something, right? Whatever they're experiencing. And so this may be a safer and legal alternative to some of the harsher things that might be being pushed out there.
That's absolutely what brought my wife and I to start the business and to get into it, is we really believe that. We think, we believe that this is something that we've been blessed with in a plant. It's naturally occurring, that you can make medicine out of, that has at the very least a much, much lower risk profile, a much lower incidence of any. I mean, there's never been a single death associated with a cannabis-based product that wasn't somehow chemically adulterated by a bad actor or someone who wasn't making it in the way they should have been. But it provides, for the opiates in particular, like you're saying, but so many of the psychiatric treatments or just mental health drugs, that there's so many side effects from the common pharmaceutical solutions.
Will we ever get to a point where, you go to your doctor, you're like, this hurts, or I'm experiencing this, and they go, you know what, maybe CBD is a way to go, or maybe you could experiment with CBD and see how that goes. Do you foresee that happening?
We do. I think for the comfort level of most physicians, I think they'd like to see the FDA progress some of the official stances on CBD, but there already are physicians out there that are making these recommendations to patients. We have good relationships with several that believe in this as kind of being a front line before more serious interventions are considered. For instance, because of the risk profile in particular.
Where does the FDA stand right now on CBD?
They really have not made a ruling on it. They recently, I think back in the fall, said that they were putting together a committee or they were taking a step further and getting closer to it. But technically now it's just not FDA approved. It's not banned, but it's just not.
Yeah. Well, and their process is quite long, and also, it takes forever to get something approved or cleared, and we've seen that process play out in so many different ways in recent years as well. Okay, so I want to ask you about the different ways that you can consume this, because you can take it in liquid form, there's topical, there's gummies, there's all this stuff. Which way is best? Or, if you're looking for fast acting relief, or, would you take a gummy for sleep, but topical for something else, more localized pain? Right.
We'll start with the topical, because that is kind of the exception to what we were talking about with the slow and constant usage. The putting we make a muscle balm that's kind of a thick cream that you could rub on like an arthritic hand, or that same knee I was talking about. It works great, and that is pretty good on a 1 or 2 time use. Where if it does swell up, I have an extra hard workout, and I put it on that evening, it will provide some immediate relief. And I would need to reapply probably 4 to 8 hours later to kind of get a similar effect again. But it helps provide pain relief kind of on an acute basis and a localized basis.
So does it go numb? Do you feel, what does it feel like when you say relief?
Not numb. Some of the swelling in the area should be mitigated, and I'd say some of just the general pain would be lessened, but not full numb by any means, no. And we don't put any menthol in that product, so there's no cooling sensation or anything that some other people have in products. Nothing against that. That's just not one of the sensations that our product gives. The gummies and oils like this one, the consumable oils, are similar products in that they're both going to be primarily ingested in the digestive system, where it'll take 30 minutes to an hour for the effects to start. There is some science to say that if you hold the oil under your tongue, that sublingually some of it will be absorbed a bit more rapidly and go into effect in 10 to 15 minutes. But really, these are two alternatives just for people that have different taste preferences. And like for a lot of people, they don't really like putting an oil in their mouth. It's not really appealing. But they would be happy eating a gummy. Other people really don't want to put any sugar in their diet, and they'd rather have an oil because it's sugar-free. Also, I'd say for the people interested in getting more efficient, higher doses, like I like the oils for that reason. Like this one is 3,000 milligrams in a whole bottle, so each dropper is a full 100 milligrams. Where I think the strongest gummy would make is 50 milligrams. So you'd have to eat 2 gummies.
So who does someone go to? I mean, is it their doctor, or is it to find out, okay, like how much of this stuff is okay for me to take? Let's say I have diabetes and I'm on medication for my diabetes, and I have a high blood pressure and I'm on medication for that, and I want to try this because my joints are starting to hurt.
Absolutely. And once again, I'm not a clinician, but I would say always, if you are on any medications in particular, definitely go to a physician, because although the individual risk profiles for CBD have been phenomenal, there are a couple cases where it competes for absorption with other medications that people may be taking, where it doesn't inherently give an adverse side effect, but say like if it's a blood pressure medicine and your body absorbs the CBD first, you don't get the dose you need of that. So I would say that's where a physician oversight can be great. I would say just start with a low dose. We have some dosage charts on our blog, and there's some other resources out there that just kind of give a protocol to starting low and going slow. And like I was saying, with maybe 10 to 25 milligrams, and give that 4 hours, see how that's tolerated. If it gives the relief, or maybe for a couple days, see how that goes. If it's not giving the relief, go to 50 milligrams and then kind of work up until it works.
So you're describing a lot of trial and error, and I think for some people the hesitation is like, I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't know what this stuff is, right? So what do you say to those people who, again, are sort of newer to this concept, newer to this idea, but who are like, I don't know, maybe?
I'd say reach out. Maybe talk to someone who has tried it. If you don't know someone, we have a lot of resources on our blog where you can kind of learn about how other people may have used it. Right.
How do you know what to buy and what not to buy?
Right. So that is once again one of the big reasons that my wife and I started the company. They always look for certificates of analysis. That's a verification of third-party testing. Products are supposed to be tested not only for potency, so that it does have the CBD that the product says it does. It doesn't have THC that it's not supposed to, or different. It just shows what compounds from the cannabis plant are in there. It shows that it doesn't have residual solvents from the extraction or manufacturing process, no heavy metals, no pesticides, no mycotoxins, or no fungus or anything like that. And so that's where the good product manufacturers and the good brands are holding themselves accountable, getting these tests done, and making them available to the consumers. I'd say there's some simple first steps. Where does the product, do they even have a website? There's some people that really are just making products and putting them out there, and there's kind of no accountability at all behind them. If you can't find any information on the brand at all, it's probably not a good start. And then looking into as much information as you can about how it's made. So we grow indoors. We do solventless extraction for a lot of our products. We do everything here locally in the DFW area. Almost all of it's done in our single facility. I'd say just learn as much as you can, and when there's dead ends, then maybe look at another brand. Yeah,
I think what you're talking about is like why we are talking about this is do your research, right? And to find out what you are actually comfortable with. You guys are available locally here. and I'm sure there are, for people who are watching this elsewhere, other places where you could go. And also, I think it's a really good rule of thumb to talk to your doctor, especially if you're taking other types of medications. But you mentioned before you take CBD. Does your wife also?
She does, and that was so. We've just had twins 6 months ago.
Okay.
And
wow.
That was it was actually, to our surprise, even her gynecologist or OB-GYN recommended during while she was carrying that it was safe for her to take it, just no THC at all.
Yeah.
Obviously, something like that is obviously up to an individual physician's comment, but once again, just another kind of vote of confidence for the risk profile.
Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations on the twins.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just kind of want to wrap this up with the most common misconception, maybe that we haven't already touched on, that people have that you want to clear up. Like, this is your time, right? Like, to talk about, people usually think this about CBD, but let me set the record straight.
Sure. I think just kind of about cannabis in general and anything derived from the plant, just the misconception of it's something associated with lethargy or laziness. And I mean, I think it really, the effects of CBD and even THC in the right dosage and just things from the plant really helped get me moving and living a more full life. And it's helped do that for a lot of people. And so I think just that general kind of stigma association still that we're still working through of this is like a plant for people that want to sit on the couch is one that, I mean, or just of general fear, but really that in particular. I think we're doing a good job culturally of starting to move past the fear, where, as states have continued to go legal with medical marijuana and CBD is federally legal and it's starting to be more accepted, and we're at least seeing no one's getting hurt. But I think that next level is where I'd like to see is that, it's something that can help you be more active when once you figured out exactly how it works with your body. And I think that's something that a lot of people need.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point. And I wish I had more time to talk to you, because this is a topic that I feel like we can just continue to deep dive in. Thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. And, hey, maybe we can keep this conversation going. Why don't you comment, like, share, and subscribe. We really thank you for joining us today on The Shift. I'm Sonia Azad. We'll see you next time.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at the Vineyard at Florence. Inspired from a trip to Tuscany, the Vineyard at Florence was born, establishing a beautiful destination of authentic Italian pastoral culture, creating fine wines within a unique resort in the world-renowned Texas Hill Country. Nestled in 600 scenic acres, just a short drive north of Austin, the Vineyard at Florence is ideally placed to experience your wanderlust. For more than a decade, they've toasted happily ever afters, created spaces for businesses to collaborate, and celebrated life's milestones. Their catering and events team can't wait to plan your next social or corporate event. And don't forget about our friends at Glam House Collective. Let's get glam.